Hello and welcome to Your Ignite News. Coming up today, City Council passes a significant culture plan.
Culture feeds itself.
And Council votes to postpone the demolition of James Street Baptist Church.
Obviously, there's, with that heritage designation, there's a process and there's policies in place, and that's playing out as we speak.
All this and more on Your Ignite News today.
Good morning and welcome to Your Ignite News for Thursday, October 17th. I'm Kyler Sanderson.
And I'm Brittany Medeiros. Here's what's making news.
The federal government has released its blueprint until the next election, one that emphasizes consumer rights and tougher penalties for criminals. The Conservatives hope the throne speech will take the spotlight away from a series of Senate scandals. Measures include stopping cable companies from forcing customers to buy bundles to get the channels they want, reducing cell phone roaming costs within Canada, a crackdown on payday lenders, and longer sentences for child sex offenders.
The United States stepped back from the financial brink late last night. Congress approved a bill to reopen the federal government and avoid a debt default. The deal was a stunning defeat for the Republicans, who had been refusing to approve any deal without major changes to Obamacare. The deal will fund the government until January 15th, provide back pay to 800,000 federal workers, and raise the debt limit until February 7th. It's estimated the shutdown will cost the U.S. $24 billion.
The decision whether or not to demolish the James Street North Baptist Church has been tabled for another week. Ignite News reporter Rachel Williams has the story.
The James Street Baptist Church lives to see another day. On October 9th, the Municipal Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee met at City Hall to discuss the fate of one of Hamilton's most iconic churches. In attendance was the developer, representatives from McCallum Sather Architects, and an audience of close to 20. Jason Farr, Ward 2 councillor and member of the city's Municipal Heritage Committee, was responsible for moving the meeting to council chambers.
It would be best to have it in a public forum, in a public setting, to allow the public to join in. It's great to see that kind of support for a real landmark in our downtown.
After 2.5 hours, the subcommittee chose to table the verdict on demolition until later this month. Built in 1878, the Gothic-style cathedral was designated a heritage building under the Ontario Heritage Act. The developer, who bought the property in June for $610,000, wants 80% of the building demolished. The structure is crumbling, but the City and Heritage Committee want to find out more before they approve it to be torn down.
Obviously, there's, with that heritage designation, there's a process and there's policies in place, and that's playing out as we speak.
The developer wants to keep the front portion of the church and add a multi-use building behind the facade. Mayoral hopeful Brian McCaddy understands the structural dilemmas, but hopes that the architecture will remain intact.
I think heritage buildings in any city really define a city. It gives a city character. So the wonderful downtown, we have all the historical buildings, the Lister Block, the Gore District, all the historic churches that we have. That really provides the essence of a city.
For now, the church survives, but it's only a matter of time before City Council decides whether or not it's going to face the wrecking ball. Reporting for Ignite News, I'm Rachel Williams.
Hamilton City Council has shot down the idea of paying nearly $1 million for tasers for the city's police. Police urge councillors to fund the expanded use of tasers at Wednesday's General Issues Committee. Instead, the city will ask the province to pay for more tasers and training for 519 line Hamilton police officers. Hamilton police used tasers in 49 incidents in 2012, up from 22 the year before. And with the recent inquest into deadly shootings by police officers, we thought we'd ask you, Mohawk, what do you think is the right course of action in the police's use of deadly force?
I think so. You know, quite often when you approach a situation, you don't really know if the person is suffering from maybe some instability mentally, and so force is never where we should start, probably where we should absolutely end, and the least amount, the better. That said, police need to keep themselves safe, so it's a tough call, and I'm sure it's very situationally based.
I would say, as far as the police go, use the force that's required. I think sometimes police brutality is quite obvious, and then use excessive force when it's not needed. Deal with the situation at hand, pretty much.
Deadly force isn't even necessary. Just, talking to someone is perfectly fine.
Since the police are getting killed in some situations is that they're to protect themselves first and upmost. So, I mean, there is probably an issue with that. You don't know where they're going to go with it, but I wouldn't want to be in their position.
You might want to rethink taking that unpaid internship. The Toronto Star reports that unpaid interns are not covered by Ontario's health and safety laws. Labour Minister Yasser Naqvi told the Star the government is investigating the loophole. There are also suggestions that apprenticeships might not be covered by the Employment Standards Act if they are part of a college or university program.
City Council has decided Hamilton should be stripped of its old steel town reputation and better recognized as a hub for arts and culture. Ignite News reporter Noah Salo has the details of Hamilton's new culture plan.
Hamilton City Council has approved a new cultural plan that seeks to redefine the way the city views culture. The new plan involves leveraging cultural activity for the sake of economic development and urban renewal.
Culture feeds itself. That culture brings in the artists, brings in all those folks, and the amount of economic development that occurs from that culture is staggering. And so it ends up feeding itself.
8 people gave presentations in favor of the document, including Supercrawl organizer and entrepreneur Tim Podisick.
Well, I think it's critical that the City of Hamilton have a document, have a culture plan in place for the entire community, and I think it'll only help solidify all the private and not-for-profit interests, all the events, and all of the organizations and individual artists and what they're doing in town. It just sort of helps create a whole.
The costs of the new plan are already contained in Hamilton's cultural division. However, any additional costs will need to come before council for approval. The document was amended to ensure the word downtown was in reference to all of Hamilton's downtowns.
Because Hamilton proper was always working on their downtown, but there were 5 other communities that were working on their downtowns. There has been an unintentional consequence of the city of Hamilton talking about their downtown with the outlying community saying, hey, what about us? We have a downtown. So this council did pass the previous motion of mine saying that when we're talking about downtown programming, it's downtowns.
Podisick ensured the document was always meant to include the whole community.
I think the culture plan in general, it's a document that's set up for the entire city by nature. So the fact that there wasn't an S on downtowns on one of the slides, I think, is maybe a bit of a little tiny oversight, but I mean, it's speaking to the entire community.
After a short debate, Hamilton City Council is currently united on the cultural plan, but it is uncertain whether this unity will be maintained once additional costs are incurred. Reporting for Ignite News, I'm Noah Salo.
That's all we have for you in news. Now let's take a look at what's coming up in sports, entertainment, and weather.
It's looking a little bit gloomy outside this morning, and we're definitely going to expect some rain later in the day. I've also got your full week forecast coming up in Ignite Weather.
Coming up in sports, the Dodgers avoid elimination against the Cardinals in the NL Championship Series, and Mohawk's women's varsity soccer team faces off against Conestoga in their first postseason game.
A power outage puts South Park production on hold, and Jamie Foxx and Oliver Stone take on the life of MLK. All this coming up in entertainment.
Let's head over to Teresa Friesen with your sports update.
Off with some baseball, the MLB playoffs continue to get interesting with both the ALCS and NLCS series heating up. Kicking off with the ALCS matchup, the Detroit Tigers picked up a much-needed win over the Red Sox to tie their series up 2-2. Game 5 goes tonight in Detroit. Over in the NLCS, the LA Dodgers went into Game 4 needing a win to stay alive in their series against the Cardinals, and that's exactly what they got. Adrian Gonzalez led the way for the Dodgers offense with 2 home runs. The Cardinals lead the series 3-2. Game 6 goes down Friday in St. Louis. Over to the NHL now, the Ducks handed Calgary their first regulation loss of the season, winning 3-2. Dustin Penner, Kyle Palmieri, and Teemu Selanne scored for the Ducks, while Lee Stepniak and Yuri Hudler scored for the Flames. Over in the East, Henrik Lundqvist and the Rangers shut out the Capitals 2-0, breaking their three-game losing streak. Lundqvist made 22 saves for his first shutout of the season. The Rangers' defensive game dominated the third period, holding the Caps without a shot on goal for the final 9 minutes of the game. Over to varsity sports now, the Mohawk Mountaineers are looking to build off a perfect preseason. Ignite sports reporter Brady Livingston has the story.
Just 2 seasons removed from their OCAA National Championship in 2012, the Mohawk Mountaineers varsity men's basketball team is off to a hot preseason start. The team has played their game to perfection, going undefeated in 10 exhibition games, including a big win over Lisette Coyotes to finish strong. Coach Brian Jonker is beginning his 10th season as Mohawk's bench boss, and Jonker is quick to point out that a good preseason is one key to a successful team.
For us, playing these games, there are a lot of teams that are on the east side, and we don't play them during the regular season, so it's a good opportunity to see the other teams on the other side. But also it gives us a great opportunity to run through and try and gain some experience in the things that we want to do for the year.
Mohawk is not only heading into a new season on a winning note, but also with a completely healthy team.
Yeah, we're in good shape.
Unlike in pro sports like hockey and football, exhibition games have some worth in varsity basketball.
The preseason matters for a lot of different reasons. It helps with rankings at the beginning of the year. It helps maybe with seeding at the end of the year. So these games matter. I think we're ready to go.
Mohawk begins its regular season on October 23rd when they host Redeemer University at the D-Bar. Reporting for Ignite Sports, I'm Brady Livingston.
Sticking with varsity sports, Mohawk's women's soccer team traveled to Woodside Park in Kitchener for an OCAA qualifier against the Conestoga Condors. Both teams played very well, sending the scoreless game into overtime, but the Mountaineers managed to keep the energy high late in the game and dominated the midfield. Goalie Nicole Roberts made some fantastic stops throughout, and forward Rochelle DeJong created several scoring opportunities, eventually netting a goal in the first overtime. Mohawk wins 1-0 in overtime and advances to the quarterfinals. That's it for me with your sports. Let's send it over to Neil for your entertainment news.
Thanks, Teresa. There's a possibility the 2014 Juno Awards will take place here in Hamilton. The choice is now between Hamilton and one other city. Officials will be in Hamilton tomorrow in order to size up the city to decide whether it's worthy to host the Canadian Music Awards show. The last time Hamilton hosted the Junos was back in 2001 at Copps Coliseum. For the first time in 17 seasons, South Park will be late delivering an episode. A power outage at South Park Studios put production on hold for hours. For any other show, one-day shutdown wouldn't be a problem, but South Park produces entire shows in 6 days. The short, chaotic production schedule allows the show to be current. Co-creator Trey Parker says they are always tempting fate and that it was bound to happen. The new episode will air next Wednesday, and a rerun of Scott Tenorman Must Die will air in its place. Director Oliver Stone and Jamie Foxx are officially moving forward with a biopic on Martin Luther King Jr. DreamWorks Pictures bought the rights to King's story, as well as his famous I Have a Dream speech back in 2009. DreamWorks then teamed up with Warner Brothers in April 2011 for the project. The script was written by Carrie O'Salem, and Steven Spielberg is in line to produce the film. Sasha Disiak is in the studio for today's Tech Talk, our weekly segment looking at the latest in technology news. Sasha, what's on your plate today?
NHL 14, the 23rd installment of EA's Sports NHL franchise. I think a lot of you are going to find this to be the most addictive version ever. Here's a closer look at what you have to look forward to. Hockey fans can rejoice because this week I took a look at NHL 14 for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, made by EA Canada, another proudly Canadian game. In this game you can play as almost any hockey team you can imagine, from the NHL to most secondary leagues such as the AHL or SHL, and many others. Most of the game plays similarly to the previous versions with some great improvements. EA has added to the game engines developed for other EA Sports titles, they added the collision engine, which was created for FIFA to make players' movements look more realistic. They also added the Enforce engine, created for Fight Night, to make the hockey fights better than ever. This was a fantastic addition to the series because after 22 previous editions, fans usually know what to expect, but these additions added some great extra depth and detail to an already fantastic game.
NHL 14 was a great one in my books because they installed the new Fight Night engine from last year into this year's game. And it brings a whole new fighting mechanic to it where it actually takes a lot of skill now, and the hitting's all different. So you even put a 94 anniversary mode in where they turned the ice blue just like back in 1994. And there's no rules, it's just a lot of fun with a bunch of friends, and the online's all balanced, and it's just a great game.
EA wasn't finished there. They also added a few new game modes, as well as bringing back some beloved old ones. Pro Mode is back under a new name, Live the Life. They also added an Anniversary Mode, which is the 1994 version of the game with HD graphics. And with the robust online modes, this game is sure to satisfy any hockey fan out there. I'm Sasha Dizak with Ignite News.
Scenes from Captain Phillips may draw video game comparisons, but it's the very real story of a hijacking of an American cargo ship. Ignite News reporter Chris Luckett reviews Captain Phillips.
If you grew up in the 90s and played GoldenEye for the N64, you probably remember one of the really tense levels of the game being on a frigate, with 007 rescuing hostages one by one. That scene wasn't actually in the movie for GoldenEye, but the first act of the incredibly tense Captain Phillips gives audiences the feel of it better than a Bond movie possibly could. Based on a true story from 2009, Captain Phillips tackles the tale of 4 Somali pirates who hijacked a cargo ship, and the captain, played here by Tom Hanks, who did everything he could think of to save his ship and the crew.
Walk down the bridge. Yeah. Listen up. We have been boarded by 4 armed pirates. You know the drill. We stay hidden no matter what. I don't want any hostages.
Director Paul Greengrass has made a name for himself with handheld action movies like The Bourne Supremacy and The Bourne Ultimatum. But the movie of his that best informs this one is his dramatization of the 9/11 hijackings United 93. With that movie, he had to tell a dark, true story of Americans taken hostage that people had watched on live TV, while being gripping enough to distract you from remembering that you knew how it ended. He does the same with Captain Phillips. Whether you watched it all go down live or not, knowing what happens won't detract from the experience. Greengrass very smartly shows the cruel and desperate daily lives of the Somalis before focusing the point of view on Phillips, and it goes a long way toward making tense scenes even more gripping and tragic. Phillips is fighting for his life, but the pirates are fighting for theirs too. Tom Hanks gives a fantastic performance as Phillips, as everyone has come to expect from him. He'll likely be up for another Oscar in a few months. And the actors who play the 4 pirates are all hauntingly powerful, especially Barkhad Abdi as the Gaunt leader, Muse.
Hey!
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
Captain Phillips may well be the tensest movie of the year. The second act slows somewhat due to a more constrained setting that some of the trailers have sadly given away. But the movie's opening hour and closing 30 minutes are not for the weak of nerve. Playing N64 never felt like this. Captain Phillips gets 4.5 stars out of 5. For Ignite Entertainment, I'm Chris Luckett.
Now let's take a look at what's happening in and around campus.
This is Alicia Gallant with Ignite News, and here's what's coming up on your community calendar. Head down to the Arnie this Friday at noon to check out a free movie. This week's flick is Pacific Rim, a movie about a former pilot and trainee teamed together to try and save the world from an impending apocalypse. The Concession Street Fall Fest will be this Saturday, as the previous date was postponed due to rain. The festival begins at 11 and runs until 4, and will feature great music and entertainment. Some of the entertainment this year includes Shy Garrido and the Rising Star competition, but there will also be various vendors and activities for all ages. This Sunday, an evening with Ian Thomas, an esteemed Hamilton musician, it offers up a night of great music with proceeds going to a great cause. The benefit supports the Cancer Assistance Program and starts at 6 p.m. at the Hamilton Place Great Hall. Tickets are $35 and are available online. That's all for your community calendar. I'm Alicia Gallant with Ignite News. Let's head back to the studio.
And that's it for entertainment. Let's check with Alicia for your weather update.
Thanks, Neil. It's looking like rain all across the board today, as showers are expected to begin mostly in the afternoon. Starting in Hamilton, clouds will build up throughout the day, and we can expect some rain in the late afternoon. Temperatures will remain quite chilly at 14 degrees. In Toronto, there will be lots of clouds and some rain in the afternoon, with a high of 14 degrees. Over to Niagara Falls, it'll get increasingly cloudy, with showers beginning later this afternoon and a high of 16. And in London, it'll be mainly cloudy with a 30% chance of rain and a high of 13. Finally, in Windsor, showers are expected to begin late in the morning with slightly windy conditions and a high of 13. And looking ahead to the next 24 hours in Hamilton, throughout the day into the evening, it'll continue to rain and temperatures should stick around 14 degrees. Overnight, the rain should hold off and it'll remain chilly at 8 degrees. And tomorrow morning will be our only chance to soak up a sliver of sun, as we shouldn't expect any rain tomorrow. There will be a mix of sun and cloud and a high of 14 degrees. Finally, let's take a look at the next 5 days in Hamilton. Tomorrow will be a mix of sun and cloud, so make sure you take advantage of the outdoors, although it will be a little chilly with a high of 14 and a low of 8. Saturday, the rain will begin once again, and it'll be cloudy with a low of 8 and a high of 11 degrees. On Sunday, there is also a 40% chance of rain with a low of 4 and a high of 10 degrees. On Monday, we can expect rain as well, with a high of only 9 degrees and a low of 4. Lastly, on Tuesday, we'll see rain once again with a high of 10 and a low of 4 degrees. And that's all for your weather update. Let's go back to the desk with Brittany and Kyler.
That's all your news for October 17th. For more coverage, check out our website at ignitenews.ca. I'm Kyler Sanderson.
And I'm Brittany Medeiros. Thanks for watching, Mohawk.